We will start with the Shanti Mantra. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sah Veeryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhetamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. So we are talking about prioritizing in spiritual life. When we are in the path consciously towards self-realization or enlightenment, or if we don't understand those terms, we are consciously on a path committed for eternal or permanent happiness. That which once gained will not be lost. That is the target. Once attained, we don't come back from that. Yet Datvana Nivartante. Having gone there, we don't come back. In the sense, it's a figurative way of saying, having attained that state, there is no falling back. It's ultimate problem solving once for all. So that is the proposal of moksha or self-realization, nirvana, enlightenment, etc. That's what we're talking about. So we finished the last class with the main point that when we consider the different spiritual solutions for our purpose, we are not going to look into what is called as kamya karma or using spiritual tech to get things done. So we are not going there at all. Because it is a very convoluted and complicated domain with its own issues. So those things are better discussed in person, and it is not relevant for the goal at hand. And also there is an explicit recommendation or a prohibition by acharyas, especially Sri Adi Shankaracharya in his Sadhana Panchakam. At the end of his life, when he was about to leave the earth, leave his body, the disciples asked, please give us one final teaching. So it's never enough. So last, something give us, and then Acharya gives a very nice, concise set of 40 teachings in 5 verses. It's called Sadhana Panchakam or Upadesha Panchakam. So in that one, he says very clearly, Kamya Matistyajyatam. Take your buddhi or your approach out of kamya karma. Do not give up that tendency for kamya karma. Give up that tendency to manipulate subtle reality to get things done. Give up that tendency that is target and result oriented spirituality. That's how we can interpret. I am interpreting it for our current Kichdi scenario. So those days he said it's all about Vaidika karma. He talks about Kamya karma and Vaidika karma. So even inside Veda, he says Kamya Matistyajyata. So now we are having a complete Kichdi with all kinds of masala. So there is no doubt that Matistyajyatam, Kamya Matistyajyatam is even more relevant today, because we have all kinds of hodgepodge going on in the name of spiritual tech. So that's another story entirely. But so this advice, it is like they call in the traditional arguments, they call it as Pratama Malla Nyaya. When I dismiss the top guy, I dismiss it is as good as I dismiss all the guys below him. So when I am eliminating the top quality spiritual tech, which is Vaidika karma, for the purpose of Kamya karma, for the purpose of result oriented, getting things done, spiritual use, that tendency to get things done using spiritual tech, I am applying that attitude for Vaidika Karma, which is the benchmark spiritual tech which has ever been there. Then what about other things? So that's how we have to consider. So I'm saying, let us take that advice from there, and then we will, based on these reasons, I'm totally giving up that part of the spiritual world. We are not going to look into spiritual solution for solving everyday, for getting things done. So solving everyday problems is another issue. I didn't want to use that word, solving everyday problems. Using spirituality to solve everyday problems here means only yoga, Vedanta, bhakti, etc. Maybe some prarthana, in the sense a sattvika prarthana. In the sense you do a normal panchopachara puja or a shodasopachara puja or just a mental invocation, or you go to a temple. You basically, there is an invoked presence of divinity to whom you submit your prayer. This is happening. This is what I'm doing, and this is what I am expecting. Please give me the strength to face whatever comes, and may my mind and body be in top shape for me accomplishing this task. And may your grace be with me for this purpose. Completely open-ended. So when we do a sattvic prayer, we just pray, please, may your grace be with me for this purpose, for this undertaking, or in this situation. That's all. Get me this done. That is not a prayer. That becomes a rajasic prayer. That becomes a rajasa prayoga. And the tamasa prayoga is, I don't want to go into that. So, sattvic prayoga, sattvika prarthana means you go to a temple or you do a puja, you invoke a puja in a proper way, proper method with all the naivedyam and everything. And then you just invoke the grace for this purpose. That's all. For this purpose, I invoke your grace. I would like to have this. So I invoke your grace. May your grace be with me in this undertaking. That's it. And whatever result comes is taken as prasad. So this would be using spirituality in everyday life, just invoking a special divine grace and a positive vibration for a situation, for a purpose, for an undertaking, or for the purpose of peace of mind, serenity, and to help us combat our negative tendencies. For these things we can use. So when we are talking about the spiritual world, we are talking about the unseen dimension, what lies behind. And in our reasoning, in our everyday transactions, in our sense perception, we are aware of some things. By some introspection and some analysis, we are able to notice a few things. This much is in our control. But there are many zones in life where we are not aware of the unconscious forces that affect our life. So predominantly, our life events, our mind, our tendencies, the thoughts that we get in different situations, they are under the control of a lot of unconscious energies and forces, which we have absolutely no, we absolutely don't know how to handle them or how to influence them consciously. Just like, I decide, I see my hand, I feel it, I can open, close it, and I open it. Close. Easy. I talk, I don't talk. Easy. I operate my senses, my body. There are, to some extent, I have mastery of my body with the practice of yoga and other things and hatha yoga. Probably I can go increase my mastery to a certain extent. There are siddhas, they say, who can, take their mastery to the level of stopping the heartbeat and all that. Yeah. So these are all there. We have seen some demonstrations. Fine. But beyond that, no matter how much of mastery over our faculties and things that we, skill set that we gain, no matter how much mastery over faculties we achieve, there is always going to be a zone that is out of my control, no matter how big you are. There is one story where we hear in some Purana somewhere, the person goes from one master, then he goes, that person takes him to the bigger master, that person takes him to the bigger master. Then the person takes to the another person, a great master who has been living for kalpas and kalpas, he has been staying alive. Like that, one story is there. So like that, we have a lot of things that tell you that there is no end for the dualistic spiritual dimension, in the sense, is like a dream. What are the possibilities in a dream? How many types of dreams there can be? How many events can happen? How many combinations can be generated in a dream? Is there any end to that? So similarly, the subtle universe is limitless. The possibilities are limitless. Even in the physical universe, we don't know how many galaxies are there, how many universes are there, parallel universes are there. There's all kinds of things. So there are certain, what they call, like in science, they call quantum states, like that. There are certain dimensions where the consciousness is able to form a structure based on the vibrational patterns. Like we have, there is a structure in this universe. There is a grammar, there is a structure, there is a geometry, there is a symmetry. So based on these things, our sages and saints have understood certain laws that work. And based on that, they have given different mantras, different procedures, and things like that. Now, this is the back end. So when we are talking about the spiritual dimension, prioritizing in the spiritual life, so when we are we are now talking about functional spiritual knowledge. I'm talking about spiritual tech. So when we are approaching the practical spirituality, the techniques, the practices, etc., we are approaching the wisdom regarding the unknown. That's what we need to be very clear of. This is where the concept of pramana, and I have explained it already a couple of times. So before we discuss further in this, one small nagging point, which was presented by a participant from the last class. We finished with that question. He said, I will address that in this class. He asked, that is the tension between the fact that currently we know so much with the advancement of science and all that. And those ancients, rishis or whoever in the Vedic times who are talking about different spiritual things, they did not have anything, which I said we don't know. And obviously the advancement of science is so much now. And the thing is, what should I take now that we are more advanced and we know a lot of stuff and based on research and science, why should we give importance for ancient teachings and the wisdom and the spiritual information they are giving while we have science and while we have the current level of advancement? Shouldn't we be giving more importance to this? The tension is how to this fact that so much of development, scientific advancement in knowledge and information has happened now. With all this in my hand, what should I consider the spiritual stuff? You know, the family is telling you, culture is imposing it on you. There is always this feeling that I have to do, but then there is no agreement from my analytical mind, logical mind. I'm not able to submit to that information or knowledge as much as I would agree with. That is the tension, if I have understood it correctly. So, have I understood it correctly, Pranav? Show me a thumbs up on chat. So, or you want to add a point to that? I want to finish this question and proceed. Is here. I would like to clarify. Yes. Please unmute that person, that Pranav, and let him clarify. But please be brief. Huh? Don't drag it too much. Yeah. Kindly unmute Pranav and let him clarify.
1 second, sir. I'm giving the option for everyone to unmute.
And only Pranav unmute.
Yes.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
I do.
Okay.
Your volume can be a little bit more.
Okay, is this better?
Yeah, much better. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you, Namaste, Yogeshvar ji. Just to clarify, my the tension I was talking about isn't why we should listen to the ancient texts at all, but more around some of the other claims around a more subtle, unseen reality. More about
Right.
that than the wisdom and the other knowledge that is there. So
Right. So unseen realities, whether they exist or not, true or not. Can you give me the top one or two tensions that has caused?
Yes, so you were saying how the universe is so big and billions of light years and things like that, and then what is the substratum of that? Science has some theories and they do experiments and as whereas the ancient texts they talk about, based on the little bit I've heard, I don't know much, but my understanding is the texts talk about the substratum and this more subtle reality, but they don't have anything or they don't have as much to say about the more physical material reality. And I know you shared some stuff with Kananji, which you showed me, so thank you, and for that. But
No, I just
but
shared the tip of the iceberg. So
okay,
can I rephrase it like this?
please, yes, please.
The origin of the universe is a conscious being. That is your problem? Or that there are other lokas and celestial beings who are in touch with us, etc., or the gods. That is your problem.
Uh, no,
Because
no,
of which I am told to follow certain rituals and rules, which I don't believe in. Because we have to stick to what affects us. The
yes,
rishis,
no,
the rishis could have
sorry.
been jobless and they would have said all kinds of things. We don't have to take all that they say. Because what is imposed upon me, what I have to deal with, that's what I need to clarify, because the world is full of things. Now, for example, in computer, there are all kinds of softwares, and if you take operating system, there are 100 operating systems. If you take an application for data processing, there are 100 applications. So what we are dealing with, I want to do this. So for that, what is available, and from this, I take this. That's how we are, right?
Yes.
So we don't bother about, unless we are going to be start a computer engineering company, we don't have to bother about all that is in the market.
Correct. So I will just,
yeah.
Sorry. So just to simplify, I guess since you put it that way, my only tension is, how can these rishis know about these texts have the talk about this ultimate reality when there's so much in this material reality that was apparently not known back then. So they have the understanding of the ultimate, but they didn't have the understanding of so many things we know today. So how can they know this ultimate but not know these other material things?
Okay,
That's my tension.
When they don't know this, how can they know that?
Yes.
Right. Good. I understand. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Will be muted. Back to me.
Right. One second. I did not change my microphone.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Am I?
Yes, you are completely audible.
Right. Is the way I am audible improving now? Is it more now?
No, sir, you are speaking very softly and it is not audible.
So it is using that mic. All right. Because I'm trying to use the mic from the headphones I'm using.
Now it is clear, sir.
Because I'm talking loud. Right. Got it. All right. Good. We are good now. So now here is the main, this question, what he asked now is a main problem of not understanding the concept of pramana. The valid means of knowledge is valid only for that domain. Now, let us say this paper, I have this paper. What is the color of the paper? White. You are using your eyes. Now, suppose I switch off the mic and everything. If I crumple this paper, there is a sound. So, did you all hear when you crumple the paper, it makes a sound. You know this. Now you close your eyes and still you can hear the crumbling sound. Now hearing is one domain. The crumbling sound of the paper cannot be heard with your eyes. No matter how sharp eyes you have, you cannot listen to the crumbling of the paper. And no matter how wonderful hearing you have, you cannot identify the color of the paper. Each domain of knowledge is exclusive. That is the main definition of pramana. What is available here is not available for any other means of knowledge. Only then something becomes an exclusive means of knowledge. Right? So similarly, the spiritual dimension, the rishis, there are two possibilities. There are two theories or possibilities. One, that in both cases, they have a special nervous system or a state of mind, a capacity of the mind, which is able to manifest the mantras, the vibrations, and they are able to perceive that, see that, and manifest it and transmit it. Rishi, mantra drashtaha rishi, which basically supposes that the person had a specific, some special extra subtle anatomy in that person, which makes them capable of this. Now we can rubbish that. Absolutely, we have all our right to rubbish that. In that case, we become Nastika. That is, I am not a believer in spiritual revelation. No problem. A person can take that stand. Absolutely no problem. The another possibility is that they went into certain yogic attainment of the mind, and in that, which is described, which we have in the Yoga Shastra, that in Sanyama and all that, Bhuvana Jnanam Surya Samyama, this, Navi Chakra Samyama, Kaya Vyuha Jnanam, you will understand the construction of the anatomy and the body if you arrive, when you do Sanyama or concentration on the Navi Chakra. It is there in Yoga Sutra. Now, that's what I was talking about, visible result and invisible results. So these rishis are basically giving us, they access this dimension of knowledge with a special quality of mind, which is not available for our everyday life. Now, there are two schools. One says either you have to be the rishi, you are born as a rishi. Another one says you can become one. You will be able to get the same ability in your mind if you go through the process of, Raja Yoga, where you prepare your mind. When you attain that, when you have that quality of mind, you will be able to see that. Now, then I decided that, okay, let me wait until I get my mind to that level. And then if I find that to be true, I will follow that. Otherwise, I will not accept that or follow that. That would be like saying, after I understand the entire, this compiler, interpreter, and all those different hardware programming, system programming, software, everything, then I will decide which operating system to use in my laptop. But I have to start with some operating system in order to understand the backend also. So I am starting somewhere. I don't know. I am not good enough. Or I decide, okay, I don't need that domain knowledge. So there is an expert, there is a domain expert, which we are doing everyday life. In everyday life, what we do, we are good in one domain. We don't know anything about some other domain. So we approach the so-called expert in that domain who knows what is going on there, and then we take the advice and go ahead. If we get the results, we are happy. If we don't get the results, we go to another expert, or we get rid of the domain itself. We see how we don't have to bother with that. Right? So this is how we do in everyday life. So the pramana concept, Veda as a pramana, means the whole Veda and the entire Astika literature, it deals with Shruti Smriti and all that. The Shastra deals with information regarding one dimension, for which the means of knowledge, the way of accessing that knowledge does not require any scientific advancement. Because I can keep on saying, like I gave some links to you to read about the ancient scientific advancement. We can say, Aryabhatta already knew that the earth was round, the heliocentric theory, we knew much before the Westerners. Pythagoras himself came and learned in India. Pythagoras theorem is Gola and Sudha Sutra, like this. We invented zero, like that. Endlessly, there is information about ancient scientific tech. But the point is that would be convincing. That is the job of convincing and marketing, which I want to do now, and that doesn't answer the question fully. We can always say that there is not enough evidence, and still we know better. See, they did not have a mobile phone. We have a mobile phone. It's an endless argument. But the fundamental is what? Does a person need mastery of domain A in order to have knowledge in domain B? I am a master of domain B. So my mastery in domain B doesn't have any connection with the mastery in domain A. I can be blind, but I can hear sounds. I can be deaf, but I can see colors. So I may be having zero knowledge in science, but I could be a great meditator and I might be able to see things. One person whom we know is Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, who was, okay, we can also say that all we know is only story, but he just lived 2 centuries before. So probably we can take it as a more reliable information because it's from people who just lived in the last century. There are a lot of records. There are people who lived with him who recorded, and it was given to us. So he is known to be absolutely, it was impossible for him to do any mathematics, play chess, and things like that. So from a normal point of view, his IQ was terrible. But when you read his teachings, there is so much of natural wisdom in that. There is so much of relevance. The points, like, they touch you somewhere, and he takes into account so many subtle factors of everyday life when he gives advice. There is a wholesomeness in that advice. But he was basically an illiterate. He never went to school, and he could not even read and write if I remember. So it was very difficult for him. And he said, mathematics, if I thought of mathematics, my head will reel. He himself has said that in the gospel. I read that. So that doesn't make him an idiot. So he is a great master. He is a great saint, and he has his own wisdom. He could see through a person. He could read thoughts of people, and he could sometimes see the future of a person. He was a great siddha. So all that was there. And there are a lot of accounts of that, right? And we had recently in the last century, until the 80s or 90s, we had so many accounts of people meeting. At least a lot of Tamil people are aware of Swami Chandrasekharendra Saraswati. He was a rare case. He knew he knew a lot of things in science, history, mathematics, and also he was a great occult master. So he has not demonstrated in the sense, but there has been a lot of supernatural experiences for people who are associated with him, and it has been recorded those people are still alive. They're all first-hand accounts. Now, what I'm trying to say is we see different kind of masters. When we go into the spiritual world, there is somebody who is an MTech and who is very good in science, who is also very good in spiritual tech. There is somebody who is a complete illiterate, very good in spiritual things. There is somebody who is, he has all these big degrees, and he did an MBA and everything, and he was a big business leader, whatever, and then decides that, okay, I am going to become a guru because this is a $1 billion business, and then he enters the guru market, and then tries to position himself with some special name and things like this, but it doesn't impress us much. He may be a great expert in a business, he may be a great expert in science or accounting or whatever, but when he comes to spirituality, you see a huge mediocrity. How much as a Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, the illiterate impresses you, this person, or there is even some sadhu who is begging in the streets of Rishikesh, he might make a stronger spiritual impression on us than this highly sophisticated person. So it's not about, there is absolutely no connection, because the sciences and technology, they are dealing with the domain, within the domain of perception, for which you need perception, you need the reasoning and the logical faculty to analyze and to build instruments and things like this, the scientific knowledge. It belongs to the 5 senses, the visible world. You need one quality of mind. But for spiritual information, we need a completely other quality of mind. For example, to solve problems, we need a totally different state of mind. You can even say that they did some brain research, neurological research, where for solving these mathematical problems, playing chess or whatever, and focusing on things, dealing with a lot of data, you need a brainwave pattern, a different brainwave pattern. They say beta, gamma, and things like that. And for intuition, I know intuition is not a pramana, I told that in the last class, in the sense of, to have a deeper kind of a feel of things and to be able to tell things that are more extrasensory, say extrasensory perception and some psychic visions and things like that. Like remote perception reading. They did a lot of experiments on this. So all these are happening in a different state, brain state. They happen in a theta or a delta level if the person stays conscious. From there, they are able to use the mind from that level and then think about something. They are able to get certain information which is not available for perception, which is not available for analysis, which is not available for scientific information, which becomes later verifiable. Somebody says this person says goes to that level and says this person is going to get some cancer or something or some problem. They do all the tests, that person is okay. And after 6 months, that person gets the problem which the psychic predicted. How did this? I have seen this happen in my own life. I have seen this happen personally in so many instances. So this is a completely different domain because I'm talking from a completely neurological level. You need a different quality of mind to access the spiritual dimension. While we need a different quality of mind to solve problems here. So based on this, we can project it and justify this this concept that the unseen world is a different domain which is understood with a different quality of mind. The information is accessed with a different quality of mind. That you need a different quality of mind which is required to access our everyday scientific information. So there is absolutely no connection between scientific progress and spiritual progress, or scientific mastery and spiritual mastery, because they are two completely different domains. One is neither necessary condition or a sufficient condition. Scientific mastery is not necessary for spiritual mastery. And scientific mastery is not even sufficient for spiritual mastery. Because they are two completely different domains, just like how I don't need excellent eyes to hear things, and I don't need excellent ears to see stuff. I need excellent eyes to see things. I need good hearing to hear things. Similarly, I need a spiritual mind, a spiritually awakened mind to be able to understand, appreciate, and perceive and decipher the unseen world. Why do I call it unseen world? It's because it is not available for perception and logical inference. It can be seen only with an awakened mind. So this is the proposition of the Siddhas, and to some extent, whoever has devoted time on this have given the testimony about this, and I myself have experienced a few things, not great, but a little, some whatever little I could check on my own level, I have done. It seems to be some kind, there seems to be a correlation. There is a complete undeniable proof of the existence of that dimension and proof of the laws in that dimension and the connection between the unseen dimension and the visible dimension and perennial back and forth between these two, and there is a living relationship between these two. And the knowledge of the unseen dimension is also very useful for our everyday dimension. And the way in which we conduct ourselves, the way in which we are involved or not involved, decides how much we are able to train ourselves to be the masters of the unseen dimension. Right? So because being complete, though they are connected, the intelligence required is completely different. The quality of mind required is completely different because these are two totally exclusive domains in terms of accessibility to the knowledge, not in terms of functionality. One influences the other. It's like, I cannot, it's like I can shoot an arrow by seeing the target, or I can hear the moving target and shoot an arrow. We hear from Prithviraj Chauhan's, I think Rana Singh, or one Rajasthan Empire, I think Prithviraj Chauhan. So he was known for archery with closed eyes, just by location and echolocation. Similarly, King Dasharatha was known to be very good in that kind of archery. So we have read all that in our literature. And some archers also demonstrated. You can just hear the sound and they shoot. So they're looking based on that. But so basically, the Though hearing and vision are exclusive domains, I cannot see who is there, but I know I can detect somebody is there with the sound. Right? So everything is connected, but not in terms of knowledge. In terms of means of knowledge, I'm saying. In terms of means of knowledge, how hearing is exclusive, seeing is exclusive, smelling is exclusive to each different sense. Similarly, scientific knowledge requires a certain kind of mind, and spiritual knowledge requires another kind of mind. One need not be a master in one in order to be a master in the other. I hope that answers your question. So this is not necessary. This is not even connected. There is no connection between them. So we can assume that all our ancestors were scientifically total idiots, but they were extremely good in this. Because when we analyze, so we have to compare them. We have to compare their spiritual mastery with the spiritual mastery of the current generation or current the way of people, the way we are and what we know, and how much of mental diseases they have. You use a small technique, a very simple anuloma viloma pranayama. You use that deep inhale and slow exhale, complete exhale, hold a little bit, then you inhale. Just that small thing seems to be having such a deep impact on stress patterns. There is no way science has arrived at it. They have taken from here, tested it, seen that it is working, and then they are using it, and then they're telling, yeah, this is a scientifically proven yoga technique. Then Massachusetts is using mindfulness-based stress reduction. There's an entire course in that. There is a huge thing, and there is a huge, but it is totally, there is a huge market for that, and it is completely adopted from Buddhist meditation. The mindfulness-based stress reduction was taken from Buddhist meditation, which is nothing but yoga. Zen means Chan. Chan means Dhyan. Dhyan is one of the angas of yoga. So, these informations are consistently proven to be beneficial, and they can do more research, and more research is being conducted. And the more they do research, they are only proving the relevance of the wisdom of the unseen world given by our ancestors, given by the rishis, given by the yogis and siddhas. They are only being proven to be more and more relevant for all the aspects regarding the mind, and for all the aspects. For example, if there is addiction, they say that the deep abdominal breathing is affecting the vagus nerve. They did not tell about vagus nerve. The rishis did not say there is a vagus nerve when you do this, because they did not give it for the purpose of stress management. They gave it for some other reason, and they said, okay, this will also make you peaceful. The person will not, when the person will not be so easily disturbed. The person will have good level of resilience. That's what they have said. Now, asana pratishtaya, that dvandvan anabhigata, the person who is established in asana practice will not be affected by the paths of opposites. Is there? That is the result to be expected from this practice. And then you do research on a person who has done asanas, and then you measure all the parameters which makes a person get affected by stress. And then you say, asana practice is affecting this, and this. So because of that, because it affects the vagus nerve, because of it relaxes the psoas muscles, and because of it activates the prefrontal cortex, and because it improves immunity, etc., 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 the practice of asana makes a person very resilient. That is the experimental research they do, but the knowledge comes from a seer who has arrived at this tech using the yogic state of mind. The mind that is in samadhi, it comes from a rishi, it comes from a yogi or a siddha. Right. So the knowledge is accessed with a different quality of mind, whose relevance in our everyday life we are analyzing using our normal mind. But the knowledge did not come from this mind. The knowledge came from that spiritual mind. Right. So we have a lot of instances that can motivate us to say that this is relevant and give us the motivation necessary to explore. But it's very important to understand this is not proving that. It is only telling the relevance. You may say that doing Agnihotra. This is one of the famous things they keep saying. Doing Agnihotra helps in neutralizing air pollution. It helps in neutralizing the nuclear radiation. And all this we hear, I don't know how much it is true, assuming it is true. But That is not the reason for which Agnihotra is given. This is where the exclusive, the Pramana exclusiveness comes there. The rishis who gave the Agnihotra ritual for a completely different purpose. The rishis who gave the Shraddha, etc., rituals for a completely different purpose. Because I do Shraddha, I develop an attitude of gratitude, and then I am more culturally rooted, and that is known to improve my psychological well-being. Some studies, some correlation study they do. All the people who do Shraddha properly, they will have a better family life, a better psychological life. But Shraddha is not given for you to have a better psychological life. That is an incidental benefit. Agnihotra ritual is not given for neutralizing pollution. That is an incidental benefit, but probably that benefit is also included. Asana practice is not for the sake of being very flexible and everything so that you can do some gymnastics. That is an incidental benefit. But asana practice is meant for giving equanimity of temperament and certain level of stability, nervous stability, muscular stability, which allows you to sit in meditation for a long period of time. That is the reason for which asana was given. But we have incidental benefits. So even when we do scientific study, we can use the results to motivate us because we know only this world. Like, they say in some Upanishad, the person who knows Brahman will become rich in cattle, will become rich in grains. What is the connection between realizing Brahman and becoming rich in cattle and grain? There is no connection. You can be a complete pauper. There is even a story where a person who seeks Brahmajnana, the knowledge, self-realization, he goes to his master and his master sends him to a butcher. And the butcher sends him to somewhere else, and that guy is a leper. So this king, and there is also, I think, there is a person that the butcher sends him to a house, and then like this it goes on, and there is a moment where the seeker of knowledge, who is a king, he goes and learns the self-knowledge from a guy who became a leper. He got attacked by leprosy, and he's like a beggar living on the streets, and he gets self-knowledge from him. So there is no connection. We have all these stories only to tell you that your lifestyle, how you look, what what culture background you are from, what is your level of worldly success. That there is absolutely no connection to that. But Upanishad says the one who knows. Sorry. Upanishad says the one who knows Brahman will become rich in cattle and grains. Then why is this guy a leper? Why is this guy a poor butcher? He has not become rich in cattle and grains. He is chopping cattle for the sake of his survival. There is another person who is, who is a beggar living on the streets. Self-realization did not make him rich. You can say that, okay, the king gave his daughter in marriage, he became a prince later. So because of that, the Upanishad statement is true. What I'm telling is, just because of self-realization, he did not become rich. There is no connection. But what it says is, we have to interpret. Then when you read the commentary, they will say, so it is called Arthavada. They call it as Arthavada. Arthavada, in the sense, if I do this, these are the benefits, you will become, these are all for motivating statements that motivate you to approach that knowledge. I understand only money, I understand only fame, I understand only pleasure, and being very rich and having a lot of belongings. So the scripture says, oh yeah, you will have all that. It's like telling a mom is bringing spinach for lunch. The kid won't eat spinach. No kid likes spinach. Every kid likes only potato. But the mom has to make this kid eat spinach. So somehow this Popeye show came. So after the Popeye is shown eating spinach and all his muscles becoming big, he says, you know what? He's eating spinach. You see, S-P-I-N-A-C-H. So if you eat spinach, you will also become strong like Popeye. So the kid is having some kind of a thing, and then he eats spinach. Now eating, and then looks at how did I get muscles? Did I get muscles? I have really seen kids, seeing Popeye eating spinach and telling, yeah, I ate spinach. Did you see my muscle coming up? Can you see a little bit extra muscle? See, I have got a little extra muscle. It's cute, but it's not true. But we cannot deny the health benefits of spinach. It only says eating spinach gives very good health benefits because it has protein, fiber, vitamin, blah, blah, iron. But Eating spinach and immediately getting muscle, that is Arthavada. Right? So similarly, in scriptures, we have a lot of Arthavada. So we can just take, we don't have to take them literally. We can take it as motivating statements. Similarly, all the empirical research that is done on yoga techniques, on meditation techniques, and certain rituals, all those things, the results that they are showing are not proving anything or disproving the spiritual type. They are all only Arthavada that may motivate us to approach the spiritual life. It is not useless after. At least it has something that I understand, I can appreciate. That is all that can help. Still there, the domain is exclusive. The science can never prove spiritual reality, can never disprove spiritual reality. Probably it can establish some connections, some relevance in our everyday life. That is all the science can do. And we don't need science in order to appreciate the wisdom of the rishis regarding the unseen world. Yeah. So this is how we approach that. So this, why I entertain this question is because this understanding is at the core of spiritual prioritizing. If I want to prioritize spiritual wisdom, if I want to prioritize my spiritual life over and above my worldly targets, when a situation demands that I have to prioritize this or that, I will choose my spirituality only when I trust in the long-term benefit, only when I have trust in the unseen dimension, because that is the only thing that gives me hope. Now, what are the things that we need, absolutely we need, in order to proceed in our spiritual effort? What are the things we don't need to bother about? We don't have to deny, we don't have to bother about it, we don't have to convince ourselves of that. For example, you don't have to convince yourself of the rationale behind certain dharma rules. You don't have to convince about it at all, not required. It is required if you want to do that. If I want to do that practice, then I will have to kind of understand the rationale to some extent, so that I am convinced to follow the details, rules and details. I have to believe in that. Yeah, and otherwise I will not be able to do. It is like saying, for example, Alankara Priya, Vishnu is Alankara Priya. Lord Vishnu likes Alankara. Goddess is Stotra Priya. Lord Shiva is Abhisheka Priya. That's it. So when I'm choosing a deity for worship, when I'm choosing a divine form for worship, the Shastra says that this, when the Lord is invoked in this form, these are the things which are dear to that Lord, to that manifestation. So include these things in your puja. When you are going to worship Ganesha, make sure that there is a lot of Nevedyam, because he is Nevedya Priya. He likes Nevedyam. He has a lot of sweet meats and a lot of things to offer food. And if you are going to have a Shivalinga, it is very important to do Abhisheka, because Abhisheka is what pleases Lord Shiva. So there are some things that are told to us. Only if I am having to. So how do I know that that is true? There is no way that Shiva did not come and tell me that. Shiva is not asking for, why are you pouring all the milk on the Shivalinga on Shivaratri? Why don't you go and feed poor children? Shastra says feed poor children also and do Abhishekam also. Pancha Yajna, Deva Yajna is required, Manushya Yajna is required. You have to do everything. It is not one instead of the other. But anyway, so they say that. So if you feel, but if you are not going to worship Shiva, you don't have to bother. Somebody is buying milk and somebody is pouring on Shivalinga because they believe in that, their worship. Why are you bothered about it? So if you want to do, if you want to go and feed the poor children, if you believe that that is better, and this feels more relevant for me, rather than going and doing Abhisheka, and anyway, I am not a worshipper of Shiva, why should I do that? No problem, please go and do that. So these are all not binding. So in prioritizing, first we need what I have to really take into consideration. One, consciousness is self-existent, not dependent on matter, and consciousness survives the destruction of matter. This is absolutely required. in order to even make a beginning. Otherwise, you are only doing stress management with yoga techniques. As long as I know yoga is some research is proven, asana is helpful, pranayama is helpful. It gives me concentration. I can live my life with a better sensitivity. I can get things done easily. I'm able to improve my concentration. I'm able to have a better brainwave pattern. So because of that, I am practicing yoga. That's it, nothing more. You can stop that. Nobody tells no. You don't have to believe in the supernatural in order to do some techniques that are beneficial for you with the benefits that you can appreciate. No problem. But if I want to appreciate the goal of self-realization, then I need to start with the belief that there is an absolute self. I, in my true nature, am absolute consciousness. I am not what I feel and think and experience as myself. I experience myself as an individual. All that I know about myself is as an individual in reference to the body, with reference to the mind, with reference to the traits, with reference to the birth, with reference to my job, positions, etc. I know myself only as this. I don't know a self of me that is beyond the waking dream and sleep, that which is not. I don't myself as something that is unconditioned by waking dream and sleep. I don't know myself as something that is beyond the brain and the body. When my brain goes into a slow mode, I get sleep. I only know waking dream and sleep. Even sleep, how I am, I don't know. I'm only deducing it upon waking up. Will I survive as a conscious entity after death? I don't know. Was I existing before my birth? I don't know. So these things, now I don't care is a different issue. But this, and science can never prove that. Science can never prove conclusively that you exist independent of body and mind. Science doesn't even have a clue about mind. Forget about the consciousness. So body, without body and brain, you can exist as a conscious entity, either as an individual, which is like a ghost or whatever, or as pure consciousness. And this consciousness is a self-existing, self-regulating, in a way, entity that is independent of matter. This is something that you have to take from the knowledge of the rishis in order to make a beginning. It is absolutely essential. 1. 2. Reincarnation is not essential to believe in that. It is very, very useful because there will be a moment in the journey when there is an uncertainty and you have not arrived at the certain, a certain level of mastery that is required to see beyond, which will give you the absolute uncertainty. But your lifespan is already coming to an end. You are already getting old. I know a person who was in the like 40s, in the late 40s. She's very depressed because she's already old and she's not enlightened, she's not free, and she doesn't know everything. No, what will happen if I die without knowing the absolute truth? So what is happening? I know my life is wasted. If it is there, then I have not known anything. So in this case, when I say no problem, you will continue where you live. Says, how do I do? So that is a big thing to know that your life, your sadhana does not go waste. The spiritual investment that you have made will never go waste. It's absolutely essential to know that. So these two things, if you are taking as a workable belief, pending discovery, you can even take it like that. Because I'm not asking you to believe this totally, but take it as okay, these guys seen something. But these two assumptions are necessary for me to proceed further. So I will assume this is true and proceed. So that you are able to sustain the motivation in order for your spiritual exploration to be consistent and to be fruitful. And there are certain milestones on the way. When you achieve those milestones in the practice of yoga, in the practice of dhyana, you will get more and more confidence about the tradition. You will get more and more confidence about the system of knowledge, the wisdom, spiritual wisdom that is given. And you will be able to sustain your motivation. You can project, like statistically, they project, no, come on, all these things that these guys have said are come true. So obviously the other thing is also pending discovery, and they are telling that it is not beyond my perception. If I reach a certain quality of mind, I will be able to see that myself. I can be able to verify that by my own experience. They say that, right? So let me wait and see. That's all you can say, and then you can proceed. But these two things are absolutely essential. You don't have to, you can always say that all the deities like Shiva, Ganesha, Vishnu, all these are all only symbolic representations. There are no real deities out there. No problem. Or you can believe that no, they are all really there. Vishnu is in Vaikuntha, Shiva is in Kailasha, or Ganesha is in that in the whatever is the Loka, the Brahma Loka is there, Indra, Varuna, they are all there. They are all very much alive. Or you can say they are all aliens who created. There are all kinds of theories. So they are all actual people in some other dimension or in some other planet, or they are all only symbolic meanings of different natural forces. All these kind of explanation about the unseen world you can take, or you can just totally leave it. You can just say, I don't care about all that information. I only care that, okay, there is a conscious principle that survives death. And I am that conscious principle and I am not the body. So I don't have to be afraid of death. And I don't have to grab everything in this one life, because this one life is not the end. And I can prioritize and focus on what is truly meaningful for me and what is spiritually relevant for me. And my spiritual investment will never go waste. Only to this extent you need to believe. Beyond this, this is necessary. Beyond this is not necessary. So you can tweak all those beliefs to the way that is rationally the most acceptable for you and proceed from there. So based on that, we can analyze certain specific things which we are using in our spiritual journey, and see how we can rationally appreciate it. Is it really necessary or not necessary? And how to make that decision. How to decide which is more important than what. What are the usual conflicts that we come through in our spiritual practice and how to resolve them. So these kind of things we'll explore in the next classes. Now I open the floor for some questions before I do the Shanti Mantra of closing. Any questions? So did I answer you, Pranav? Thumbs up is enough. Or thumbs down. Good. Next. Anybody else? It will be very useful if you all note down some dilemmas that you have and share with us here. We can deal with them. If you one person asks, so many people can benefit. It's all a similar pattern. So many people will be having similar dilemmas. Wait for a few seconds.
Namaste.
Namaste, Karan, yes.
Namaste. So in this practices, what we're learning, sorry, if you're practicing all this, and then how to verify that we are doing the right practices, how to verify that we are on the right track. What if I'm just imagining and doing something? So how to verify that?
Right. We are going to, this is one of the things. We have to see which practice. In this context, which practice you are talking about?
Yoga, like the mind practices you were saying first, day-to-day life, there are some disciplines will help you. This is spiritual. First, you are talking about the spiritual things, and then you also said for day-to-day solving problems, we have yoga, Vedanta, and
for mind-related practices, there are promised results in the scripture.
Yes. Please, a little bit on that. Thank you. That's the question. So, how to verify that I am practicing on the right practice?
Yeah, we have to see what is the result promised. We will start seeing those results. So if you don't see the result and you are seeing the contrary result, for example, practice of japa is supposed to give you concentration. But you find yourself much more distracted, frustrated, and what do you say? In full of conflict in our everyday life and constant mental conflict. That means there is something wrong in the japa, in either the method you are doing or the mantra you are doing. So the promised result is supposed to be there. I start a practice for some reason, and the practice is supposed to give me a result. This is the promised result. So if the result is not there, either the way I am doing it is wrong or it is a wrong practice, and we have to change. Just because a guru gives something, that doesn't mean it is right. Guru is also doing trial and error. Not all gurus are omniscient. 99.9% gurus are No, they are working based on feedback. So the more we discuss with them, the more we give them feedback, and then we discuss the practice, the more we'll be able to troubleshoot and get the right.
Thank you.
We'll discuss more things like this.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Now, 1 hour over. Being diplomatic is good or bad? How can I be diplomatic in a good way? But that is about psychology. How is it connected there? So what do you mean by good way? You have to see. There is a question. Being diplomatic is good or bad? How can I be diplomatic in a good way? From the Shastra, we can say, so we have to define here 2 things. What do you mean by good? What do you mean by bad? Can you tell that? You can unmute and tell me. No problem.
Namaste ji.
Yes.
When we
Sound.
there is a controversy.
Your voice is very feeble now.
Hello.
Yes. A little more sound, please.
When there is controversy going on, we
Yes.
measure both good and bad side. When we see good things and bad things, sometimes bad people also do good things, and in such situation, if we take that into consideration, that can be good or bad.
Good or bad is always tied to a purpose. So there is a small context and there is a big context, out of which the small context is a part. So we have to see if something it is good. So whatever we are seeing is good. Is that good action part of a bigger context which is bad? Or whichever is apparently looking bad, is it part of a bigger context which is good? A mother scolding a child. Not nice. It's not a nice experience. It's bad for the child. But in the bigger context of the mother training the child, because he is the well-wisher of the child, a little bit of bad words is actually good because it challenges him to improve. There is one person who is called as a saint. So that woman is going and feeding a lot of people. I cannot tell the name, they will arrest me. She's going and feeding a lot of people. She's doing a lot of medical care, which itself was questionable, but anyway, taking care of homeless people on the streets and all that. And she's doing all that to convert that person into some religion. That is the bigger context. She went and even told once the Prime Minister of India that if the conversion is not possible, I have no business in India. I have to leave India. I am doing all this not for healing them, but for bringing people to my religion. She used some other word. So basically, the bigger context is conversion. The good action is a smaller context. Conversion is bad. Feeding the poor is good. So Karna was a great, a person in terms of giving dana. He is known for his charity. Good. But he was serving Duryodhana. Bad. So a good context, part of a bad context becomes bad. A bad local context, if it is part of a larger good context, becomes good. So without seeing the bigger picture, we cannot judge the smaller picture's relevance or judge how we have decided how we have to deal with it. No, whether it should be dealt with in the same way as we would deal with a bad situation, which is part of a bad context. So there is a small bad which is part of a bigger bad, then we can deal with that so completely ruthlessly. There is a small bad which is part of a big good, then we don't have to deal with it ruthlessly, but we can deal with it with a little bit of benefit of doubt, a little bit of compassion. So that is the logic of approaching this. And diplomatically meaning, what do you say? Diplomatic, from what I understand, is basically the good version. There is a good diplomacy and bad diplomacy. Good diplomacy is for conveying something in an agreeable way. Bad diplomacy is for manipulating. Manipulating is against the principle of Satya. But if I want to convey something in a useful manner, I have to convey the truth in a useful way, in an agreeable way. Satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat, hitam bruyat. At the same time, I cannot tell a lie in the term simply because it is pleasing. Anurtham kadapi na bruyat. So, from the value of universal value of speaking the truth, the Shastra itself tells, please speak in an agreeable way. That becomes diplomacy. So, diplomacy for the sake of an agreeable communication and a useful communication is all right. Diplomacy for the sake of manipulation, for selfish reasons, I wouldn't consider that as. Right?
Thank you.
Did it answer you?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So this is enough. Please write down your questions from your practice. We can discuss in the next class. Thank you for the questions who were asked today. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vadishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We shall meet tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Thank you. Thank you for attending.